Thrive is actually our brand expression that we're trying to build. So we launched this at the end of 2013, and it's very much based on this whole idea of success, that by partnering or working with Cargill, our stakeholders will be more successful than they would with any other alternative that they have. So ideally, we want to get more people around the world to start associating Cargill and Thrive. How do we do that? One way is to tell a good story. So look at this image here, for instance. You know, this looks like a great stock image. Oh, it's colorful and beautiful, and she just grabbed this. No, this actually is one of our farmers in Côte d'Ivoire. And what a great story she has, right? So we actually provide a lot of farm input services. We provide a lot of risk management. And we also provide in Côte d'Ivoire and other areas in Africa, specifically for women farmers, we actually provide women's clubs at the farmer co-ops so that they kind of are empowered. And then they can produce bigger yields. They're actually contributing to the economy. They're actually becoming a really important key member of the economy. So what a great story. And if we ultimately want to get that kind of story told, so we're making that connection of how what our folks are doing are helping the world thrive. So what better way to tell our story than engage people like her and other employees around the world? The challenge that we have, though, is we're a big company. That's a good thing. We've got 155,000 people that can start telling this story. That's also a challenging thing because we have all of these, I'll go through them in a minute, significant challenges in terms of how do our own employees begin to internalize this? What does it mean to them? If they don't understand it, if they don't get it, we're kind of dead in the water before we can even go out on this thing. So we decided, what are some of these challenges we needed to face up front? So Cargill, by its very definition, is basically a vast and very diverse, dispersed workplace. So yes, we have a lot of people, 155,000 employees across 70 countries. But we're also very disparate in terms of just even the job categories we have. So we've got everybody from office workers to frontline manufacturing folks. When we say somebody is in the field, they literally are in a field somewhere. So, and then even things like education level. So we've got food scientists that are at the PhD level, all the way to production workers who maybe just have an elementary school education. We also have a very highly decentralized operating structure at Cargill and a very autonomous operating model. So being in a corporate center, this is a challenge for me and in my role, right? We have a lot of decisions that are made at the country level, at the local level. We don't mandate anything at Cargill. It's not in our culture. So we don't just push stuff out. There's very few things. We're getting better, starting to get a little bit better about that. But for the most part, people rely on their local country manager or their local supervisor to get their information. They're not really leaning into corporate, or certainly not the Minneapolis office here. So how do we begin to convince these folks that, hey, it's kind of worth your while to understand this bigger narrative and this bigger story that we're trying to tell, and why that's important for you and your stakeholders? We also have more than half of our workforce that isn't wired, and that means that they don't use a computer for the job that they do at work. They're not on our email, they're not connected to our intranet system. We can't just post something, click a button, and assume done. So that's a challenge as well. And while they may not be wired at work, they're definitely wired outside of work, right? So, but the challenge here is so many different channels and ways that they're getting and sharing information. So at work, some of them are getting that verbally from their supervisors. Some are doing digital or print newsletters, signage and monitors in our different locations, social sites, and again, those vary dramatically depending on the country and the culture. And then finally, our employees speak about 22 languages, and then we've got local dialects that account for dozens more. So again, an English-only, North America-based program is certainly not going to work for reaching them. So when we look at how we were launching our brand expression and really wanting to get our employees to understand and be able to share our story, we realized that we're not just going to post something on our internet, ask a few people, hey, can you forward this on to your teams, and just assume it's been done. We actually flipped that whole model in its head, and we said, let's start with the global first strategy. Let's start with our most challenging, all those challenges we just went through. Let's start with the hardest one, and let's start with one of these employees that's the most difficult to reach. So this is Maritza Kokomo, and she is actually a chicken hanger in our plant in our poultry production facility in Honduras. She doesn't speak English. She doesn't have a Cargill computer at work, or she's not online at work, and she is in a really remote location. So Maritza is a perfect example of I want to get to her. If she can understand how the work that she's doing is helping the world thrive, that's a huge win. And it's easy for everybody else. The PhD scientist that sits down the hall, no problem, right? If we can get to her, everything else really falls into place. So our approach was basically, let's confront all of these challenges head on. And we had this great opportunity to do this. So we launched our brand expression at the end of 2013. In 2015, it was Cargill's 150th anniversary. We could not let that pass. What a great opportunity to really engage and motivate our workforce. So we decided to basically use this idea of curating stories and starting to find a cohesive strategic narrative. That was the first thing we did. Let's develop a narrative that starts to get anchors, because there's a lot of stories we can tell. We could be all over the place here and just end up confusing more people, right, than we are bringing them together. So we looked at kind of three big themes or pillars that were somewhat unique to Cargill in terms of market excellence, so how we create new markets or how we enter and improve existing ones, the innovations that we've done throughout the food supply chain over the years, and then our nourishing people. That ladders up to our overall purpose of why we exist as a company. So those were the kind of the big themes that we bucketed the stories into those key categories. And then, of course, we had to make it shareable and understandable to our employees. Don't produce all those things. We curated 150. If no one can read them, no good. So every single one was translated into 22 languages. You can kind of see here how those kind of came to life. And then we also not just translated the stories, but also all of the anniversary content that we did. Everything from instructions for people to download and do things with their employees, it had to be translated. We couldn't just assume. We made it so easy that, yeah, we don't mandate stuff at Cargill, but honestly, why would you not do this? We've done everything for you. So it was a great opportunity to get our own employees. Obviously, they were our primary target with our anniversary program. So we wanted to make sure that again, they were understanding and being able to share and engage with our stories. We wanted them excited about them and seeing their part in it so that they would share it with their family, their friends, customers, other business associates. So our goal was to reach at least 75% of our global workforce. We didn't want to go 100. We were trying to be realistic on our challenges. And to do that, to reach that many, we knew we'd need help. Right, so we decided let's appoint, we called him an anniversary coordinator in every single country, every single business, and every single function. At the time, we had 68 lines of business, we had 19 functions, 70 countries. So we have about over 200 people that basically raised their hand and said, at a minimum, I'll let my organization know that, yeah, there's this anniversary going on. Ideally, what we really wanted them to do was if their organization chose to do something, remember, we don't mandate everything, it's their decision, but these would be the people that would actually be implementing how they chose to bring that anniversary to life in their organization. And so we employed a lot of different tactics and strategies. In addition to reaching our employees, we obviously wanted to tell our stories externally to some of these other stakeholder groups. So we employed a number of different channels, both digital and print, to really reach key influencers in the food and ag space. So we did pretty targeted stuff. We tested a few things. We measured carefully. If it didn't work, we moved on. If it did, we did more of it. And it was a great opportunity really to reach people, whether it was through print, radio, digital and social, out-of-home stuff. Again, Cargill is not known as a marketing company. This was like mind-blowing for people to like getting our name out there in this way. This was all very new.